So we have babies being birthed into plastic bags. Not bad because there's underwater birthing, and I understand and respect that agenda. That is something you wish would not happen, like children going to foster homes. This is an extension of being born into a bag. It's being put into a box. The irony of the box showcasing, want to think outside of the box. You don't have to be put into the box, because once you're inside of a box, sometimes you cannot get outside of the box. Even if you are thinking outside of the box, you do not want to be inside of the box. One problem with speaking loosely or defining guidelines that are whimsy jurisdictions, saying an assault rifle is banned when every gun you can call a rifle, every weapon can be used as an assault weapon. Shoot, I saw Vin Diesel slam a mug through someone's face in one of his movies. Is a mug an assault weapon? Yeah, finding terms, if you're doing that so loosely, you're gonna allow more and more power however they choose to. Whimsical. With your body is a weapon. People can be scheduled as a license to kill. I've heard someone, he was just being a cool guy. His hands were scheduled as weapons. And I know that because you can get scheduled and affirmed things if you want. It's kind of like taking out a patent on an object that you make as your invention, but then they say you can be legally blind. So I guess you'd go to a doctor, but then even further than that, they get it legally. So with the state, sign out some papers saying you're blind. If you have a license to kill, you'll be going to the state and getting your license. Nerve that is like a few feet long. And in Mortal Kombat, there's this one guy named Goro, and he has like 5 limbs. 4 limbs, 4 arms. I'm not saying that there is ever going to be something in the lines of a dangerous animal, but if there ever was one that no one knew of, it would come at a time where there would be a lockdown where no one actually knows what's going on. For all we know, this virus coming out is an ancient entity. One that is trying to manifest that hasn't come through fruition yet. If you're a hardcore science fanatic, you'll know that the leading idea of why we're here is that bacteria came along and was from a comet soaring through the universe, hit into planet Earth, making algae in the water have a bacteria interaction and form an animal, and the animal form in the water and mimicking like a woman's water breaks. I don't know how that works. More proof that the water animal came first, and then it like went out of the water onto land, and then made people in the Neanderthals first, and then people say that we were then bred with Neanderthals later, and that gave us a good immune system because they were more inapt. But before all that happened with the bacteria, perhaps for a virus to be more inapt, it's waiting for its Neanderthal type of virus. That's why it's always changing and mutating to think and learn. And what if it just hasn't manifested yet into an actual body, and then once it does, it would be a dragon? Well, guess what? We thought couldn't happen during a lockdown. I'm not saying it would, but if it did, that's probably how it would. And I know that's kind of whimsical. That's why I use the word whimsical with the capital W when talking about stuff like that, because I know it shouldn't happen, but in my lifetime, the most likely scenarios for things to happen have been blindsided, thrown into a projector, and running day to day with things that I've never seen in my entire life, of stuff including the baby boomers saying they've never seen anything like this. They've never had it this bad, where no one can actually do anything that would allow it to stop. And if you're watching this video in a million years from now, it could be any of the four horsemen. I think in the Bible, the four horsemen are like plague, war, and the other two you probably are facing if they're not the first two. In any case, back to dragons. This is gonna be too far-fetched because where if there ever was a dragon, it would come through a lockdown of no one knowing and everyone being quiet. I do understand that when you're speaking loosely, it's unfavorable if you're closed-minded. Just to be closed-minded when it comes to interpersonal. I would love to tell you about how I've got wet feet because they get sweaty because my shoes are old. I understand that that is intrapersonal, and I should not be sharing with you my techniques of how to keep dry feet because that is, again, something I'm not proud of. So when it comes to such as with a disease, it's intrapersonal because you're not wanting to share, and that is why people stay quiet and why a dragon would emerge, which is why you need to think of a higher, a more sophisticated, a better suited conceptuality of how to speak on intrapersonality. A toxicologist. Wow, what a job that no one thinks is something unless you know one. If you've ever met a toxicologist, you're lucky because I can't wait to see one for the first time. The very first question, once I know who is it that I will ask this question to, how accurate are your measures when you're reading a toxicology report? Can you see what they had for breakfast the day before? Old people usually forget that the same day. And then I'm gonna ask, how do you get more and more accurate so you can see what they have ate for their entire lives because they always have food in their stomach since the first day they were made. And from there is an access where you can see more and more things, and you'll be more and more surprised how much of your body is always in cycling to release the toxin. And that is quite literally how a dragon thinks. So a dragon's really big, dinosaurs as well. I bet they had these characteristics and brain power that probably we don't even have. And question two, just asking, say, you know what, instead of seeing what they ate, what's the difference between food and possible diseases? Because I know in your cell structure, the doctors are already saying, well, these are cancerous cells, these are not cancerous cells. How many of your cells, based off toxicology, are prone to carry that disease? And what are the different classes of diseases in toxicology? I want to see each and every form. I'd get thrown out at that point. But yeah, in virology, they have the shapes of the different viruses. I want to know in toxicology the shapes of the different diseases, and if they're the same as a toxin, you should be able to show me. And you'd probably say, and rightfully so, well, you know, in this field, we're not virologists. We don't have definite shapes of our structures that you're looking for as classifications. Our different toxins are close and far, and the closer you get to them, the more that they change, and we can't show them in specific strains. And so they'd probably bring up something that is really ambiguously shaped and say, this is our spectrum and this is what it looks like in a dial here to there, but here to there could mean A, B, C, D. Field would be a really more complex because it's scattered. Probably that's where they're at, and that's why they haven't been able to conclusion that a dragon would submerge. Suspicious, that's occultish. It could be bad, it could be nice, but if it wanted to get mean, it definitely could, and that wouldn't be something fun. What if it was like Godzilla, gain a function with the electricity it was blowing out of its throat? What if it could blow out fire and electricity in Mortal Kombat Liu Kang? There's a famous physicist named Richard Feynman, one of the best. He said after he learned enough physics, he saw everywhere around him, sorry, I dropped my glove, was a physics. He saw it all around him. That could be true. Actually, that is true, because that's the world that we live in. It's a mathematical universe. What is a toxicologian? A toxician. Would he see toxicology all around him? If so, and that scaling that was so whimsical, would he see stuff like this? This is like, pretend that's one of the toxic structures that he had a hard time saying that they can't put their finger on it. Would it be equivalent to looking at something like that? Even though it doesn't make any sense, that's what a toxic structure would look like if he had to be crude without any filters.